Hello everyone. So now I'm just going through quickly some of the articles that are in here. This is eating disorders and anorexia nervosa, if you were wondering about the abbreviations. So denial and minimization. Individuals that are going through anorexia, they don't necessarily know the seriousness of it, so they just go after a low body weight due to their body image, and minimization of denial minimization may be manifested by unreporting the frequency of certain eating disorders. So deliberate distortion, intentional underreporting or denying symptoms, inadvertent distortion, and then overcompliance, desire to please the clinician by providing inaccurate reports. So social desirability bias goes into that. There's much more under here on the left. And then in Korea, more disability is going into perceiving more as implying physical disabilities than intellectual disabilities. And individuals with intellectual disabilities tend to be identified with greater stigma. So culturally, kind of unfamiliarity with individuals with disabilities can cause that, and due to social stigma associated with disabilities, individuals with disabilities often face discrimination in their social lives. So they reported about 85% reported of persons with disabilities experience some sort of discrimination. So there's quite a few statistics here which you can go through carefully. And then the next one is epilepsy, which I personally have. And so when we're talking about fears of rejection in the job or different places, that's a real thing. And members of the general public may be uneasy with someone with epilepsy because at any point they can have a tonic-clonic seizure. And so JME stands for juvenile myoclonic epilepsy, but they go into this notion that a person with epilepsy may be advised about the dangers of certain leisure activities, not to necessarily take away from somebody's life, but in order to improve the symptoms of the seizures. And then electrochemical syndromes, clinical syndromes. So social stigma associated with, now again, juvenile myoclonic epilepsy have mild cognitive dysfunction. So out of anything, the cognitive dysfunction is actually discriminated against. This can be, one of the other things that they talk about is if the patient doesn't want to take the medication, especially in teenage years, how do you get them to do so? And then avoiding triggers is just as essential in this age group as medication adherence. And so most careers or jobs are available to people with epilepsy, but employment requiring use of weapon, such as law enforcement, public transport positions, or some with licenses are discouraged, but no complete completely denying of this. Okay, so the next one is leprosy, and calling a leper or leprosy has been suggested and changing. Also, global availability of treatment for leprosy is very important. So with leprosy, by fear of contagion, fear of disability that may accompany leprosy, fear of rejection and social exclusion. And when the stigma is acted upon, this is called discrimination. Very important distinction between the two terms. So unfortunately, examples of this are still too easy to find. So going into some more social stigma, the simple but unattainable curing of obesity. A lot of times, gastroplasty surgery or intestinal bypass surgery, leading to a decrease in nutrient uptake. While these are promoted, there's some negative aspects to them, which is important to consider. So some of the, of course, other things that increase physical activity or speeding up the rate of metabolism through drug treatment or the application of drastic dietary regimes. So there's so many treatment options, but as long as you're getting a very low calorie diet, it has its successful adherence, and nutrient dense instead of sugar dense is important. So a little bit downward, just going through some of these structural interventions in societal contexts. And so this is looking at Chennai in India, and looking at sex workers having safer sex and HIV prevention. So this is an intervention in that area. And before that, you have to kind of understand it. And Thailand is also another government where they're enforcing 100% condom campaign. And then on the right is homosexuality and some of the stigma that they face. And in 1993, Herrick portrayed heterosexism as an ideology that denigrates and stigmatizes non-heterosexual lifestyles and privileges heterosexuality. Prizing heterosex reflects a value assumption that is the only appropriate manifestation of love and sexuality, and devalues all that is not heterosexual. So the traditional ideology and trying to go beyond that is very important. So large-scale stigmatization of lesbians and gay men exerts negative social, economic, and emotional effects on their development. So there's feelings of difference and victimization. So that is every article. I encourage you to go through the left article and see what you can find. They can be all read more extensively here. Thank you for listening.